So if there was nothing, how do you get something from nothing without a cause?
How do you get, I can answer the same question in the way I did before, how do you get so much nothing from something? You look into the night sky, if you're in, say, the Carmel Peninsula, you can't do it from many parts of Virginia now, but if you are in certain parts of California, as I was recently, you can look into the night sky and see universes blowing up and bursting into flame every night of the week, several times. They had something, and it's all nothing now. Who's the author of that? Who mandated that? Who's the creator of that? Who's the dictator who demands that sacrifice? You're making a rod for your own back here.
Yikes. It is difficult to know where to begin with this one. First, the question is a metaphysical one. How is it possible that from a state of non-existence, existence can come? Consider Hitchens' point that many stars and galaxies have exploded into nothing. Well, this isn't quite true if we're being technical. The matter that made up the stars is still there, it's just exploded across the universe. But the matter itself, the stuff, still exists. So it's not the case that truly nothing has come from something, as Hitchens suggests. This makes it an inappropriate analogy to something coming from nothing, by which Frank Turek meant literally nothing. As in, not atoms in space, or quantum fluctuations, or Lawrence Krauss's nothing, but nothing. Hitchens asks, what about the things that do exist and then don't exist anymore? Well, the stuff itself that makes up those things does still exist. It's just been rearranged. When Turek asks how something comes from nothing, he doesn't mean how do atoms form themselves into stars or something like that, which would be the actual reverse of Hitchens' questions. He means how did the atoms get there in the first place? So the questions are not actually about the same thing. But anyway, Hitchens has answered Frank's question with a question. Something he apparently doesn't like when other people do to him.
How do you get something from nothing without a cause?
How do you get, I can answer the same question in the way I did before, how do you get so much nothing from something?
If you answer,
then give me another source.
If you answer my question with another
Give
question,
me another
I'll still
source.
answer it.
Okay.
I will still answer it, even
Thank you.
though your question is an answer to mine. Rather, not an answer, a response to mine.
But notice anyway how this is nothing more than a distraction. Hitchens is asked a metaphysical question. How does something come from nothing? His response? Why is it that stars explode and the universe will end? It's totally irrelevant. Just pointing to the fact that things come to an end does not explain how they were created in the first place. That just doesn't answer the question. The question is, how did things come about? And Hitchens responds by saying, well, have you considered that they'll come to an end? He doesn't even attempt to answer the question. To make a comparison, this would be like if Frank had presented the teleological argument, asking why there are complex things in the universe and saying that these indicate a designer. And instead of actually answering the question, say by pointing to natural selection, Hitchens were to respond with something like, but we also see many simple things in the universe. How do you explain that? It's like, that's another question. It may be a useful question, but it's a different question, and it's got nothing to do with the question that you were actually asked, which you evidently don't have an answer to. Now, at this point, if you've followed the trend of the other arguments, you may be expecting me to say that this is a tu quoque fallacy again, except it isn't. It's actually much worse than that. It would be a tu quoque fallacy if Turek had said, Hitchens can't explain how something comes from nothing, and Hitchens said, yeah, well, you can't explain it either. That would be an example of the fallacy. Instead, Hitchens responds by saying, yeah, well, you can't explain this other unrelated thing. It's a totally unrelated observation. Imagine you were arguing with someone, let's call him Hitchens, who believed that the Egyptians did not build the pyramids, and instead believed that they were just natural objects. You ask them, how on earth do you get the pyramids from nothing but sand in a desert? And Hitchens responds, well, they probably won't last forever, you know. Erosion will destroy them eventually. So if these Egyptians really did design them, they did a pretty poor job, don't you think? It's like, that's not an answer to the question. It's totally unrelated. Not only this, but the question Hitchens asks in response to Frank's question is not even a good one. You may be thinking, even if Hitchens failed to answer the question of how something comes from nothing, we can at least say that he had a counterpoint, a separate point, but a good point, in saying that the universe seems headed for destruction, and this doesn't square with a loving God. Okay, if God was a competent designer, why would he design our world in such a way that it will one day be destroyed? Now, as I address this point, I want to stress that even if Hitchens was right in this point, it's still completely separate to the question he was actually asked and got away with not having to answer. So in this example, Hitchens is debating with Frank Turek, a Christian. Now, of course, Christians believe in Judgment Day and the second coming of Christ. In other words, they believe that God will intervene and send human beings to the afterlife before the sun explodes, before the galaxy collapses, before the universe ends. The fact that our world is headed towards destruction doesn't matter, because Judgment Day will occur, and it will occur before it has the chance to end. That's the Christian belief. This is a fairly simple observation, probably one that you've thought of yourself. And in fact, Frank Turek says exactly this to Hitchens. And look what happens.
And of course, religious people believe that somebody's going to intervene to stop it before it does go. And even if
they do?
Even if it doesn't,
wait.
Hold on.
Sorry.
Even if nobody intervenes,
if it goes to heat death,
it goes to heat death.
Excuse me. Did the religious among you, ladies and gentlemen, understand, I did not, that there will be an intervention to make an exception in our case?
I mean, does Hitchens not understand the idea that the religious believe in an afterlife that will save us from earthly destruction? I mean, seriously?
That's the Christian view, and as I said...
I had no idea.
Yes. That a new heaven and new earth will be created. Genesis is paradise lost. Revelation is paradise restored.
It sounds fatuous to me, I've got to say.
Have it your way, it sounds fatuous to me. I mean, is this Hitchens conceding that this is, in fact, the Christian worldview? If so, his previous point completely collapses, and the only point remaining is now that the idea of an intervention sounds fatuous. Okay, so if God creates the universe and allows it to end, that's poor design and should be condemned, but if he intervenes to stop it from ending, that's fatuous. You're not leaving many options open, Mr. Hitchens.